Hello, my name is Bob Vigersky. I'm the Chief Medical Officer for Medtronic Diabetes and also Professor of Medicine at the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. I really thank you for joining me today. For the next 30 minutes, I'm going to be talking about the Guardian Connect CGM and how it predicts and mitigates glycemic excursions in the real world. My talk is really in three parts. I'll talk about the system first. I'll show you some data about predicting hypoglycemia and its impact. And then I have a couple of case studies. So let's talk about the Guardian Connect system first. This slide depicts what's involved with this system. As you can see, it involves a sensor, the Guardian Sensor 3. It's used for up to 7 days, and it's very accurate with a 9.1% MAR. There's a Guardian Connect transmitter, which has Bluetooth enabled and transmits to a cell phone, and it's available in either Apple or Android. And finally, in the upper right, there's the Carelink Report, which is a key feature of using this particular device and making the most out of it. The way this works is that the data from the sensor goes through the transmitter to the phone and automatically uploads so that there are people who you can designate to monitor you in real time. And this includes care partners and even your healthcare provider. So you link and upload, that's the first step. You can view and the healthcare provider can view, that's the second step. And then you can collaborate at the time that you so choose with your healthcare provider. This might be every 3 months as is usual, but it could be more often if changes in your therapy are being made. And you'll see in one of the case studies that this is indeed what actually happens. The Carelink Report, as I mentioned, is really one of the keys to understanding glycemic control and making the appropriate changes. The reports have been changed just recently, and I'm going to take you through a few of these features. As you can see from this slide, the first feature is the time in range bar. This is adapted from the International Consensus Group's recommendations about how time in range should be designated. And you can see that it's on the left of the slide and then blown up on the right of the slide. You can easily see the time in target range, 58%, above target range of 180 is 30%, above 250 is 11%, and then below 70 in this case is 1%. This is easy to look at, and if you look over to the left, you'll see an A and B. So this allows you to compare any designated period up to 2 weeks with a previously designated period. And right now, for this example, there's no other designated period under B, so it's just nothing is shown. On the top, of course, you see the modal day with the interquartile ranges, and this gives you a high-level view of what the glycemic patterns may be. The next thing I want to bring your attention to is in the center, and this is the statistics. And blown up on the right, you can see that these statistics give you a quick view of the amount of sensor wear, the average sensor glucose, the GMI or glucose management indicator, the coefficient of variation, and the number of high and low sensor glucose alarms per day. It also gives you information about the total daily dose of insulin and the amount of bolus and basal, and the number of meals and carbs per day. But I would caution you to remember that the dose of insulin and the meals do depend on the patient putting in that data in the app. So be careful when you review this report to understand whether or not the patient is completely entering all the requisite data, because if the patient is not, you may get a misimpression of what's actually going on with that patient. And finally, on the right-hand side are the CGM Alert Settings. These settings can be either on or off. They're alert on high or alert before high. alert on before low or on low. And then also you can designate how much time before each of these events the alerts go off, anywhere from 1 up to 60 minutes. And this is a very important part of this, system, because it allows the patient to customize how long before an event occurs that they want to be notified. And in some cases, they may want to be notified up to 60 minutes before, but in other cases up to 20 minutes before. And this can be changed based on the time of the day. So the Guardian Connect system was designed to help patients with their lifestyle and offers these customizable tools. So you can choose to set the alarm alerts before high and before low excursions. And this gives you enough time to choose whether or not to be alerted from 10 to 60 minutes before a high or before a low. The system is intended to complement but not replace blood glucose information. So all therapy still needs to be based on measurements obtained by standard fingerstick measurements. Now, just a couple of slides about the efficacy of continuous glucose monitoring. I've picked just one study. This is the study from Lind et al., which demonstrates a couple of things. This is the HbA1c over time in a randomized controlled crossover trial over a period of 16 months. And what you see quite clearly is when individuals on MDI with type 1 diabetes are afforded the use of real-time CGM, they get a significant improvement in their HbA1c in the first 3 months. But once they stop using it after 6 months and during the 4-month washout period, you can also see that the effect of that CGM has worn off and essentially returns back to baseline. And the importance of this finding is that CGM is meant to be worn real time 24/7, and it's only as good as the time you wear it. So patients who you choose to use CGM should be advised, and they should be committed to wearing it as much as possible, because once they stop wearing it, they will go back to their baseline. Now, the efficacy of CGM is really demonstrated in this real-world study over 3 years that was just published in Diabetes Care. And what this study did was select about 25 patients in each group. 2 of the groups had CGM, and 2 of the groups had SMBG, or self-monitoring of blood glucose by fingerstick. And within each of those groups, there were some who had a pump and some who were using MDI. And what you can see on the left is a clear benefit of using CGM, regardless of whether the insulin delivery method is by pump or by MDI. And this is the A1C benefit. On the right-hand side, you see the time and range benefit, which also shows that the time and range goes from approximately 50% up to either 69 or 72% in those using real-time CGM, whereas if you're using SMBG with either MDI or pump, it doesn't have nearly as much of an impact as using CGM. And finally, the time below range is shown below. And this is important because, as we know, time within range can always be increased by giving more insulin, but you don't want to do so and drive hypoglycemia. But in fact, in this study, not only did those using CGM get better time in range, but they also improved time below range. Now, I'll also point out something that I think is important, is that this is a study with CGM with or without pump, and yet the time below range is still above the recommended 4% of time by the International Consensus Conference. So these individuals did not have their glycemic control optimized, but it's certainly a lot better than what they were at baseline. Now, the accuracy of the Guardian Connect system is not only important in terms of its sensor accuracy, but also the accuracy of detecting lows and highs. and in particularly lows, where this can be, in fact, life-saving. So this study of 89 individuals with type 1 diabetes between 14 and 75 showed that if the individuals did not enable the predictive alerts, there was a correct detection rate of 90.5% within 30 minutes of when the blood glucose was at 70. But if you enable the predictive alerts, that number goes up to 98.5%. So that means that patients using this system should be encouraged to use the predictive alerts, because this really, in the end, may prevent a severe hypoglycemic episode diagnosed as either needing assistance, seizure, or coma.